The rain came down hard that morning, turning the narrow city streets into ribbons of silver and reflection. The sound of engines sputtering echoed through the alley behind Mason's Auto Works, a modest garage tucked between two old warehouses that smelled of oil, metal, and time. Inside, Mason Blake wiped grease from his hands with a torn rag, his blue work shirt clinging to muscles built from years of labor. He liked mornings like this, quiet, mechanical, predictable. Machines made sense. People didn't. Machines had logic, they either worked or didn't. People lied, pretended, hid behind masks. He'd learned that lesson the hard way, the day his name was printed across business magazines, only for him to walk away from everything he built. Now, to the world, he was just the mechanic on Elm Street. No one knew Mason Blake was actually the founder, and former CEO, of one of the country's most successful automotive tech companies, Blake Industries. No one except his lawyer. And that was exactly how he wanted it. But fate, as always, had a wicked sense of humor. The door to the garage swung open, the chime of its rusted bell echoing across the space. Mason turned, wiping his hands, ready to greet another impatient customer. But instead, he saw her. She was drenched from the rain, her hair clinging to her face, her white blouse nearly transparent under the downpour. She wasn't like the others who came here with engine problems and spare tires. There was something fragile yet fierce about her, a kind of desperate dignity that made him pause. "Hi. I'm sorry, are you open?" she asked, her voice soft but trembling. Mason nodded slowly, his eyes narrowing. "Yeah. You lost, or your car is?" he asked, setting the rag aside. She gave a weak smile, stepping closer. "Both, I think," she whispered. Her name was Elena Harper, though he didn't know it yet. She was a junior architect working for a firm that treated her like a coffee fetcher rather than the talented designer she was. And right now, she wasn't here for a car repair. She was here because of a lie, a little white lie that had spiraled out of control. Elena had told her ex-boyfriend, Damien, a slick, arrogant executive, that she was happily seeing someone new. She'd said it to protect her pride, to make him stop pitying her after he left her for a model. But now, Damien had invited her to his engagement party that evening, claiming he wanted to stay friends. The thought of walking in alone, of being pitted again, made her stomach twist. So she'd done something impulsive, driven around town until she found someone, anyone, who could help her pretend. And that's how she ended up here, standing in front of a man whose eyes were calm but unreadable, like deep water hiding a secret current. "That I need a favor," she said finally, her voice breaking slightly. Mason raised an eyebrow. "A favor? From a mechanic?" he asked. She nodded, glancing at the rain outside before stepping closer. "I know this sounds insane, but, could you pretend to be my boyfriend? Just for one evening. I'll pay you. You don't have to do anything but stand beside me, smile, and maybe hold my hand once in a while." Mason blinked, sure he'd misheard her. "You want me to, what?" "Pretend to be my boyfriend," she repeated, her cheeks flushing. "Please. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important." He let out a low chuckle, half amused, half stunned. In his world, the one he'd left behind, people pretended all the time, partners, investors, smiles for cameras. But this? This was new. "Lady, you know I fix cars, not relationships," he said. "I know," she whispered, eyes dropping. "But you look decent. Strong. Kind." The words hit him harder than he expected. Strong and kind, two things he'd stopped believing he was. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You don't even know me," he muttered. "I don't need to," she said. "Just say yes. Please." There was something in her eyes, raw, honest desperation that tugged at something buried deep in him. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe pity. Or maybe, deep down, he was just lonely enough to care. "Fine," he said finally. "But I'm not doing it for the money." Her eyes widened. "You're not?" He shrugged. "You look like you've had a rough week. I'll help you out. Just this once." Relief flooded her face, and for the first time, Mason saw her smile, small, shaky, but real. "Thank you," she breathed. "You have no idea what this means to me." He smirked faintly. "Guess I'll find out tonight." The rain eased by evening, and the city came alive in golden streetlights. Elena stood outside the garage in a soft navy dress, clutching her purse tightly. When Mason stepped out, cleaned up and wearing a black button-down shirt, she almost didn't recognize him. Gone were the oil stains and grease, he looked sharp, effortlessly confident, with that quiet kind of masculinity that didn't need to prove anything. "You clean up, really well," she murmured. He gave a half-smile. "You don't look too bad yourself, Miss Architect." Her eyes widened. "How did you?" He pointed to the firm's blueprints peeking out of her car seat. "I fix engines, but I notice things," he said simply. The drive to the hotel was quiet, the air between them filled with unspoken tension. Elena rehearsed her lines in her head, how to introduce him, what to say if anyone asked too many questions. Mason, on the other hand, seemed unfazed. His eyes scanned the skyline as if it was an old memory. He'd been in this world before, luxury, lies, laughter that didn't reach the eyes. It almost felt nostalgic, in a twisted way. When they arrived, the grand ballroom glittered with chandeliers and designer suits. Mason followed her inside, his presence commanding attention without trying. Heads turned. Even Damien, tall, smug, wearing an expensive smile, faltered when he saw Elena walking in with the ruggedly handsome stranger beside her. "Elena," Damien greeted, his tone dripping with polite surprise. "You came. And, you brought someone." "This is Mason," she said, her voice steady. "My boyfriend." Mason reached out, shaking Damien's hand with a firm grip that made the man flinch. "Nice to meet you," Mason said smoothly. "I've heard a lot about you." Damien forced a smile. "Likewise." "What do you do, Mason?" Before Elena could jump in, Mason replied casually, "Fix things. Cars, mostly. Sometimes people's bad attitudes." The surrounding guests chuckled, but Damien's smile tightened. Elena bit her lip to hide her amusement. Throughout the evening, Mason played his part flawlessly. He listened, laughed, and subtly protected Elena from snide remarks and probing questions. When she stumbled in a conversation, he'd step in, his hand brushing hers lightly, an anchor in a sea of judgmental stares. For a man who claimed to be just a mechanic, he carried himself with the poise of someone used to commanding rooms full of suits. Later that night, as the music softened and the crowd began to thin, Elena leaned closer. "You're really good at this," she whispered. He chuckled. "You make it easy." For a brief moment, their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. But just as the air grew warm with possibility, Damien approached again, a hint of bitterness in his tone. "So, Mason, tell me, what garage did you say you work at?" Mason smirked. "Didn't say." "Well, you should come by my company sometime," Damien said, his arrogance surfacing. "Maybe we can get you some real work." Elena tensed, about to respond, but Mason's calm voice cut through. "That's kind of you," he said smoothly. "Though I think I've done my fair share of building companies." Damien blinked, confused. "Building companies?" Mason smiled faintly. "Long story." Before Damien could press further, Elena tugged Mason's arm gently. "Let's go," she whispered, her cheeks flushed. They left the ballroom under the soft glow of the city lights, laughter echoing faintly behind them. When they reached her car, she turned to him. "Thank you. You have no idea how much this helped me tonight." He leaned against the car, arms crossed. Guess I'm a better actor than I thought. She laughed softly. You were amazing. He studied her for a moment, his voice low. So, that's it? Just tonight? She hesitated. That's what we agreed on. Right, he said, pushing off the car. Well, it was nice pretending. Before she could reply, he walked back toward the garage, his silhouette fading into the night rain. Elena watched him go, her chest tightening unexpectedly. She told herself it was just gratitude. But deep down, something about him, his mystery, his quiet strength, lingered in her mind. She didn't know that the man who just fixed her broken pride was the same one who once sat in boardrooms making billion-dollar deals. And she didn't know that her little lie was about to become the most real thing either of them ever felt. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the garage windows, casting golden rays over steel tools and unfinished cars. Mason was already at work, sleeves rolled up, music low, his hands deep in the engine of an old Chevrolet. He liked it that way, the rhythm of gears, the scent of fuel, the predictable hum of metal obeying his touch. Last night had been a rare interruption. He told himself it was over, that Elena Harper was just another stranger passing through his life. But when he looked up and saw her standing at the door again, holding 2 cups of coffee and that same nervous smile, something in his chest shifted. You again, he said, wiping his hands. She lifted 1 cup. Peace offering. Thought I'd thank you properly. He smirked. Coffee's always a good start. Elena stepped inside, her eyes glancing around the garage. I can't stop thinking about last night, she admitted. You were incredible. The way you handled everyone, the way you looked at me, even I almost believed we were really together. Mason chuckled softly. Guess we made a pretty good team. They sat on the hood of a car, sipping coffee in comfortable silence. Elena's laughter filled the space like sunlight, breaking the stillness Mason had lived in for years. For a moment, it almost felt easy, like he wasn't hiding behind a false name, like he wasn't the man who'd built and lost an empire. But peace never lasted long in his world. As they talked, Elena's phone buzzed. A message flashed on her screen, from her boss, Mr. Lawrence. Need you at the corporate site meeting in 30 minutes. The new investor will be there. Her expression faltered. Oh no, she murmured. I forgot about the investor presentation. He's supposed to be this big tech entrepreneur, some mysterious partner who bought into the firm last month. Mason's brow arched, but he said nothing. She glanced at him suddenly. Wait, you know cars, and business, would you mind coming with me? Just for a bit. You've got that confident aura. Maybe it'll help me pitch better. He hesitated, then shrugged. All right. But I'm not dressing up. She grinned. Don't worry. You don't need to. By the time they arrived at the glass skyscraper downtown, Elena's nerves were showing. The firm's lobby gleamed with marble floors and gold lettering, a world far removed from Mason's humble garage. She led him to the top floor where sleek models of architectural projects stood under spotlights. Her coworkers barely noticed Mason at first, too busy straightening ties and refreshing makeup before the new investor arrived.